The scent of stale coffee and the hum of the office lights were already giving Eliza a pounding headache when the message popped up. Urgent, hot fix needed on the live system now. User interface was completely broken on the invoice display. It was just before 8 in the morning, and she hadn't even taken off her jacket. By 8:15, the issue was fixed. No one said thank you because no one else knew where the recovery script was stored. Not even the new guy in operations who once asked if certain technical terms were actually words. Eliza was the person who held everything together, the quiet presence in the system logs, the hidden force behind every successful project launch. She didn't ask questions anymore. She skipped lunch. She hadn't taken a single day off in a year and a half, not because she sought recognition, but because if she stepped away, things would quietly, foolishly, reversibly break. But only if she came back. By 8:30, she was in a small, windowless room, watching the new chief technology officer present a glossy presentation about making post-launch operations more efficient. There was a slide with a generic photo of a woman smiling at a laptop. It wasn't Eliza. Eliza's laptop looked like it had survived a war. It had. His name was Automated Process. She kept her expression blank as he spoke the word automation as if it were a sacred belief, not just a tool. Eliza had built the automation. She had linked various scheduled tasks to alert systems and notification services like a carefully orchestrated, anxious symphony. But automation needs a director. Without her, it was like a single instrument playing alone in a burning room. And as a quick note, since you clearly appreciate a good story of drama and digital battles, consider subscribing and giving this a like. A large majority of listeners aren't even subscribed. Help the team out. It supports our coffee habit and keeps these stories coming. Anyway, no one ever asked Eliza how it all functioned. They just expected it to. She was the one who stayed late during the major software crisis. She was the one who figured out the financial dashboard's data flow problem while her mother was in the emergency room. She was the one who kept the monthly deployment schedule accurate to the minute. So, when the reorganization announcement arrived, perfectly timed just after she had completed the largest infrastructure upgrade the company had seen in 10 years, she knew. Oh, she absolutely knew. That's why when her manager contacted her just after 6 in the evening with, "The CTO wants you to personally manage tomorrow's release. Says you're the only one who won't mess it up," she didn't respond with, "Thanks." She replied, "Send me the build request." The upgrade was a complex blend of database updates, programming interface changes, and container orchestration overhauls. A single mistake, and the entire system would collapse. Eliza handled it with precise, surgical skill. She had consumed 3 energy drinks, her hair was tied back, and her fingers flew across the keyboard while engineers half her age watched with the awe of children seeing a magician perform on live servers. She didn't care about compliments. She cared about clean system logs. At 2:37 in the morning, it was done. No errors, no warnings, no post-mortem analyses. She leaned back, gazed at the glowing screen, and whispered, "Still a wizard, even at this hour." But she also knew they would never truly see her. They would use her again until they didn't. She drove home in silence. Her hands were still trembling from the caffeine and the stress, but deep in her stomach, a different kind of tremor was growing. Not fear, not sadness, but anticipation. Because the hidden force behind every successful launch, she wasn't just useful, she was essential, and she was about to prove it. A congratulatory email landed in her inbox at 9:02 in the morning. Subject line, "Outstanding work on Q3 infrastructure upgrade. 2 bullet points. Flawless deployment under budget. No thanks. No, you saved us." Just a graphic of fireworks from a marketing template and a smiling face emoji, signed off by the CTO himself, Greg Miller. A man who used trendy corporate jargon like it was a cologne and walked as if his feet never touched the ground. Eliza sipped her cold coffee and stared at the email. Then, at 9:07, The calendar invitation arrived. Meeting, organizational alignment, immediate. Location, HR conference room. B. Attendees, Eliza Ray, Greg Miller, Dana from HR, and a box of tissues probably waiting on the table like a subtly aggressive centerpiece. She knew what was coming, but her mind still couldn't fully grasp it. Not today. Not after the deployment. Greg didn't even look her in the eye when she walked in. He just gestured to the chair as if she were late to her own funeral. Dana offered a soft, insincere smile, like she was handing over an expired coupon. First off, Greg began, flipping a sleek leather folder as if he'd practiced this in a mirror. We want to acknowledge your contribution. That deployment went exceptionally well. Eliza nodded, waiting, and he said, dragging out the words as if they pained him. The company is moving into a new phase of operational efficiency. We've determined your role is now redundant. Redundant like a spare tire that didn't fit the new car. I see, she said, calm as a deep sleep. Is there a transition period? Documentation handover? Am I expected to train anyone? Greg chuckled. Well, I mean, it's all automated now, right? The automated system runs the scripts. You said it yourself. Then he added a smirk that made her stomach churn. Basically made yourself replaceable. That's good design. Dana slid a thick envelope across the table. Eliza didn't touch it. Inside, her mind was screaming. You arrogant little walking spreadsheet. You think the automated system configures itself? You think cloud permissions write lullabies to the firewall? Outside, she was still. No rage, no tears, just a long, slow blink. I'll need to gather my things, she said. He waved his hand as if she'd asked to borrow a pencil. Already done. Security has your access card. You'll be escorted. Escorted? She wasn't a threat. She wasn't a thief. But still, the protocol was to escort the dispensable. The walk to the exit felt like a scene she wasn't truly in, like she was observing herself from above, past the break room, where she once fixed a live system rollback in the middle of a fire drill. Past the whiteboard, where she diagrammed the new continuous integration and deployment pipeline, while some interns doodled smiley faces in the margins. At the front door, a security guard handed her a cardboard box. Inside, her favorite mug, a small cactus she hadn't watered in months, and a printed sticky note from last winter that said, "A restart fixes 90% of problems." She stepped out into the parking lot, box in hand, her access card useless in her pocket, and stared back at the building, the same building where she'd spent the last 6 years whispering code into chaos. She should have felt rage or sadness or humiliation. But mostly, she felt unreal, as if her reflection in the glass no longer recognized her. The sky was that dull, overcast gray that the Midwest specialized in, just enough light to make shadows look weary. And Eliza, she didn't cry. She just walked to her car, set the box on the passenger seat, and whispered one sentence to no one. Well, Greg, let's see what happens when the automated system forgets who taught it. The messages started flooding in around noon. What the heck? You got laid off? Please tell me this is a mistake. Eliza, they can't do that after what you just accomplished. Her phone vibrated as if it owed her something, buzzing on the kitchen counter next to a half-eaten pastry and the pink slip she hadn't opened yet. She didn't respond. Not yet. She sat in silence, staring out the window at the rust-colored maple, shedding its leaves as if it knew something was ending. She still hadn't taken off her jacket. Her group chat, ironically named Deploy or Die, but today it felt literal, was halfway to organizing a mutiny. Jules, the UI lead, you should get a lawyer. This is nonsense. Kev, from operations, we're already breaking stuff. The automated system keeps failing on the API refresh, and no one knows where the token vault is. Ryan, now at another company, file a wrongful termination claim. Heck, just tweet about it. This is classic age-related targeting. They want to replace experienced talent with cheap new hires. But Eliza just sipped her microwaved coffee and opened her laptop. No rage, no drama, just pure instinct. She navigated to the deployment license portal, the one she'd set up 6 months ago when the company was too focused on saving money to invest in corporate keys. Greg had literally said, "Can you just use your personal account for now? We'll sort it out after the launch." She had that in an email, not that she needed it. The screen flickered to life. Her name, her email, primary account holder, Eliza Ray's active licenses. One last deployed 6 hours ago. Associated projects, main production cloud, and for operations key. Expiry, January 12th, 2026. They never transferred it. Not a single attempt. The entire new deployment, the very one Greg had celebrated with his budget-friendly sparkling wine, was running on her license, her personal, legally owned, non-transferable license, tied to her email, to her machine, to her name. She stared at the glowing terminal, her heart pounding, not from triumph, but from certainty. This wasn't revenge. This was negligence. Theirs. The automated pipeline authenticated through her key. The cloud cluster access was granted by a token under her personal profile. Temporary, they said. The financial dashboard everyone depended on to track revenue. Yes, that too. A memory surfaced, one she'd buried during the all-nighters. Greg standing beside her cubicle with his arms crossed, as if delivering a sermon. "You're so reliable, Eliza. We're lucky you're not one of those I need everything formalized in triplicate types." "No, Greg. You were lucky she was loyal, not stupid. And now the system you threw her out of, it was floating on a raft you never knew she owned. She could crash it. One command. She wouldn't, but she could. Instead, she closed the terminal, walked to her bedroom, and took a long, hot shower that didn't feel earned, but definitely felt overdue. She didn't call HR. She didn't threaten legal action. She didn't make a scene. She opened a new text document, titled it, "When They Think Automation Replaces People," and she began to write. The cursor blinked at her like a challenge. "Deactivate key force scope equals global." She'd written that command, wrapped it in a safety net of logical blocks to prevent exactly this kind of thing. No rogue operations, no brute force terminations. But now Eliza was the rogue operator. The system trusted her too much to stop her. She hovered her finger over the enter key. She could still back out. Let it continue. Let them keep using her key as if nothing had happened. Let Greg throw another idiotic party with operations running scripts they didn't understand, built on a foundation they didn't maintain. But no, this wasn't rage. This was simple calculation. She'd read the contract 100 times. Her name was on that license, not the company's. She paid the yearly fee from her own credit card because procurement wasn't set up for niche vendors yet. She hit enter. The command line interface responded as if shrugging. Key revoked. Associated sessions terminated. Warning. Dependent systems may be impacted. She closed the terminal and stared at the blank screen as if it might scream. Nothing happened. Not yet. No alarms. No sparks. Just an absence. It wasn't a bomb. It was a vacuum. And inside that vacuum, everything they built with her was quietly falling apart. She packed her laptop in its case, grabbed the same hoodie she used on all-nighters, and left her apartment with the calm, methodical demeanor of someone checking the weather before walking into court. By 9:42 in the morning, she was parked across the street from the office. Same ugly gray building with its keycard gate and half-dead landscaping. The coffee she brought was already cooling. But she didn't care. She wasn't there to drink it. She was there to watch. No screen, no internet connection. Just Eliza in the driver's seat, fingers wrapped around a cardboard cup, watching from a distance like the ghost they'd turned her into. Inside, somewhere past those smudged windows, the automated system would already be gasping. The token vault wouldn't respond. The deployment pipeline would choke mid-handshake. The billing interface wouldn't retrieve data. Audit logs would timestamp errors no one understood. But Eliza didn't need confirmation. She just needed space. Her hands shook, not from nerves, but from the massive shift of it all. The clean, absolute no she had just served to the machine that had drained her dry. This wasn't sabotage. This was liberation. She wasn't erasing their work. She was deleting herself from the places she no longer belonged, taking her name off of the painting they'd signed with someone else's brush. She breathed in the silence of her car and exhaled 5 years of invisible service. No grand display, no conflict, just Eliza Ray, logged out, but not powerless. And across the street, the countdown had already begun. At 10:01 in the morning, the first message dropped into the alert channel. Deployment queue stuck at 3 pending. Automated system retrying. No one panicked yet. The automated system sometimes had hiccups, especially if the UI team left console logs the size of dictionaries. They just tried to fix it, cursed it, and moved on. By 10:07, the second message hit. Error. Vault token expired. Reauthentication failed. Then came the pager alerts. 3 engineers sprinted toward operations like caffeine-fueled meerkats. Greg, the CTO, was in a meeting titled Post-Deployment PR Opportunities when he got the first call. He dismissed it. He was reviewing social media posts with phrases like flawless transition and legacy cleanup complete. At 10:13, the internal chat exploded. CI/CD builds are failing. Who rotated keys? Info vault is dead. Can't fetch tokens. Billing dashboard blank. Revenue metrics not loading. Anyone else seeing 0 for Q3? General chat. Eliza handled that, right? Wait, is Eliza still here? No, she got let go. Holy sh! Who has her credentials? By 10:18, the development floor had split into factions like a bad apocalypse movie. Operations blamed automated system configurations. The automated system blamed token permissions. UI was throwing urgent fixes into a black hole, none of them reaching testing environments, let alone live production. A junior engineer named Amber, fresh out of boot camp, quietly said, "Didn't Eliza manage the vault connections herself?" No one answered. They were too busy shouting over each other like agitated birds. At 10:21, Greg stormed into the room. "What the heck is going on?" he barked. His voice cracked, more from panic than authority. Kev from operations looked up from 3 failing terminals. "You tell us, man. The automated system can't push. Vault's offline, and no one knows who last updated the deployment keys." Greg pinched the bridge of his nose as if that would conjure an explanation. "Reboot it. Restore the last configuration." "We can't, Greg," Kev snapped. "The last configuration is locked. Credentials are invalid." He paused, looking around. "It's like we've been cut off." The room went silent. Greg's jaw twitched. Someone messed with the access levels. Who had super admin privileges? Silence. Then Amber quietly, almost apologetically said, "I think Eliza did." Greg's eyes darted to her as if she'd said something offensive in a quiet room. "She's gone." "Right," Kev said, drawing the word out like a threat. "And you never transferred her roles, never revoked her personal license, never migrated credentials? You just assumed the automated system would take care of it like it was magic." "Are you saying," Greg growled, "that our infrastructure is down because some bitter ex-employee yanked her key?" "I'm saying," Kev replied, leaning back in his chair, "infrastructure is down because the one person who knew how it all worked was escorted out with a cardboard box and 0 handover." The fire alarm didn't actually go off, but it might as well have. People were shouting, phones ringing, laptops overheating from retry loops and logging errors. Marketing couldn't access the dashboard to prepare their quarterly report. Finance couldn't verify invoices. Product couldn't even confirm whether their last release had gone live. Spoiler, it hadn't. Greg stormed into the hallway, phone already to his ear. "Get me legal now!" Then louder, "Who revoked our cloud access?" But the walls didn't answer, and neither did the automated system. At 11:04 in this morning, the company's biggest client, Summit Solutions LLC, responsible for 42% of their quarterly revenue, called in with 2 words that made interns sweat through their shirts. Transaction delays. By 11:07, it was escalated to critical service disruption. By 11:10, legal was on a 3-way call with IT and finance, frantically searching for anything resembling a service-level agreement clause that could buy them time. But there wasn't one. Not for this. Eliza had written the integration herself, and the back end was currently blindfolded and screaming into the void. At 11:15, HR tried calling Eliza. Office line, cell, email, even LinkedIn, no response. Just one unread message on her last communication from Dana. "Hope you're settling in okay post-transition. Let us know if you need a letter of recommendation." Eliza didn't open it. She was busy watching a pot of water boil, not because she needed tea, but because she liked the metaphor: pressure, heat, movement, transformation. Her living room was quiet except for the occasional notification from her personal account, muted. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table, screen glowing softly with a directory labeled in all caps. "Do not delete Eliza deployment keys." She clicked it open. Inside, vault tokens, automated system binding files, shell scripts with comments like "temporary," "my foot," and "if you're reading this, congratulations, you messed up." She leaned back into the couch and smiled. Not smug, not cruel, just the tired, slightly amused grin of someone who once begged for a proper handover meeting and got told, "We'll circle back after Q3. At 11:23 in the morning, she opened a new document. Title: Invoice, Emergency Consulting, Eliza Ray. She filled it out slowly, methodically. No need to rush. She was the only bridge left. Rate, 420s per hour. Minimum block, 8 hours. Scope: Deployment reactivation, vault restoration, CI/CD triage, automated system credential rebinding. Rush fee applied. Terms: prepaid, net zero. She attached her tax ID, added a line at the bottom. Please direct all inquiries through legal or board contacts. I do not respond to chat messages. By 11:30, she hit save and exported to PDF. She still hadn't answered a single call. Let them sweat. Let them escalate. Her phone buzzed again. Private number. She let it ring twice, then answered. "This is Eliza." A man's voice, older but professional. "Miss Ray, this is Richard Jensen. I'm on the board. We're trying to get clarity on a situation involving system access and key dependencies." She smiled slightly and stood up, stretching her arms above her head like a cat that finally got its nap. "I imagine you are. Are you able to assist?" "That depends," she said, already clicking send on the invoice. "I'm no longer an employee. If you'd like my help, you'll need to retain me as a contractor." A pause. Then, "Understood. Please send terms." "Already did," she said, sipping the tea she hadn't made yet. "Clock starts when payment clears." Click. By noon, Greg had wiped sweat from his tailored shirt and was on his third "we're looking into it" email to the client's CIO, who was no longer buying the act. The client's logs showed a steady cascade of failed requests, misfired token handshakes, and a complete halt in invoice generation. "Annual billing isn't scalable," their representative said through clenched teeth. "If this isn't fixed by end of business, we're pulling the plug." That was when the board stepped in. Greg was pulled from crisis meetings and herded into a call with 3 senior board members, all of whom looked like they had just swallowed glass. One of them, Richard Jensen, the same Richard who'd called Eliza earlier, opened with, "Why does our infrastructure appear to be held together by a single person you just fired?" Greg tried to spin it. "It's automated system-based. The deployment is automated." She, Eliza, was a legacy technician. "We're moving to a more scalable model." Richard didn't blink. "Your scalable model just lost access to the vault." The silence that followed felt like a guillotine hovering midair. "I'm escalating this," Richard said. "You had your shot. I'll take it from here." He left the call and dialed Eliza again, this time with the quiet urgency of a man who finally understood how bad things had gotten. She picked up on the second ring. "Eliza, it's Richard again. I've reviewed your invoice. Before we move forward, can you just clarify what happened?" Eliza didn't sigh. She didn't raise her voice. She simply said, "Your CTO terminated the only person with an active deployment license." Pause. "He told me the automated system was automated enough to replace me." Pause. "It isn't. And the vault?" Richard asked, already bracing himself. "Was authorized through my personal license. Non-transferable, tied to my cloud account. Temporary access never migrated." I reminded them. No one followed up. He was quiet a moment. Then, "Can you help us?" "Yes," Eliza said, "but I'm no longer an employee. You'll need to retain me." "We're prepared to do that," he replied. "Do you have a contract ready?" "Invoice sent. Scope listed. Once payment clears, I'll walk someone through the first steps." Richard hesitated. "We'd prefer if you handled the fix yourself." She smiled. Not smug, just patient. "That's extra." Richard laughed just once, dryly. "Of course it is." He hung up and sent an internal memo to Legal and Finance. "Approve Eliza Ray's consulting terms immediately. All efforts to fix this in-house have failed. We will follow her lead." An hour later, Eliza's payment notification chimed. $360 received. Note, emergency retainer, phase 1. She cracked her knuckles and reopened the vault documentation. Meanwhile, inside the office, Greg watched as an internal chat thread titled Emergency Consultant. Eliza Ray gained 137 reactions, half of them clown emojis aimed squarely at him. Public embarrassment. Oh, it had just begun. The video conference call launched at 2:03 in the afternoon sharp. No pleasantries, no small talk, just Eliza's initials glowing in the corner of the waiting room, like a silent ultimatum. Richard admitted her to the meeting. There were 6 board members present. One wore a tie with a stain that looked suspiciously like barbecue sauce. Another looked like she'd been crying. All of them stared at Eliza like she was both the ghost of Christmas past and the only plumber in town when the basement was flooding with raw sewage. Greg was there, jaw clenched, pale, trying very hard not to blink too much. The faint sheen on his forehead told her everything she needed to know. He'd been sweating profusely since noon. "Miss Ray," Richard began, calm and professional. "Thank you for joining us." Eliza unmuted, face calm, no makeup, hair in a low bun. The background behind her was blurred, but a corner of a cat tree poked through. It didn't matter. She radiated authority. "I understand you need a briefing," she said. "Let's begin." She shared her screen, opened her terminal, brought up the access logs with the crisp, surgical precision of an expert describing how a patient bled out because some intern tied the tourniquet too tightly. "Here," she said, highlighting lines of text. "This is where the automated system lost vault handshake access. Token expired because no one updated credentials after I left." She scrolled. This is the API failing to connect with the client's billing system. Right now, you're running manual invoices with no validation. If they push another batch, your whole financial layer could collapse. Another scroll. This is where the CI/CD pipeline stalled, because the runner environment no longer recognized any active key bindings. Silence. She stopped sharing her screen. Greg cleared his throat. Okay, but excuse me, let's not frame this like it was intentional sabotage. Clearly, there was a miscommunication. Greg, Eliza said slowly and with zero inflection. I revoked my personal license. The one I paid for. The one I reminded your team to replace twice. No further discussion. Richard cut in, his voice like a gavel. Miss Ray, what are your terms? Eliza already had them open in a PDF. 3-month contract, non-negotiable, upfront payment for the first month before any work begins. No handover until this final week. All credentials migrated under proper legal ownership. She paused. And I want the non-disclosure agreement lifted. I want the right to write about this anonymously on my blog. No names, no company identifiers. Just a case study in what happens when a company tries to automate a human being. The legal representative on the call shifted in her chair, eyes flicking to the board. That's unorthodox, she said. Greg jumped in. You can't be serious. This is extortion. Eliza looked directly into her webcam, eyes steady as granite. No, this is consulting. You wanted a discount when you thought I was powerless. You fired the human behind your automation. Now you pay full price. Greg opened his mouth, then stopped when Richard raised a single hand. Approved, the board chair said. All of it. The legal side nodded. We'll prepare the paperwork. Greg slammed his laptop shut and dropped off the call without a word. Eliza stayed a moment longer. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply said, I'll expect payment confirmation within the hour. I suggest someone begin exporting incident reports. You'll need them. Then she left the meeting. Her phone buzzed 5 minutes later. $12,1600. Received. Note, month 1 of 3. Eliza Ray Consulting. Terms of surrender accepted. Eliza waited until the transfer cleared. Then methodically, like a safe cracker in a quiet room, she opened her terminal, generated a fresh token, and re-authenticated the vault. The system didn't roar back to life. It exhaled like a dying patient finally given oxygen. API logs started whispering again. The automated system stopped spinning in place like a confused toddler. The CI/CD runner responded with a single line of text. Connected. Pipeline restored. She didn't smile. She didn't clap. She just nodded and opened a notepad titled Onboarding for People Who Can Read. Step 1. Delete everything Greg touched. Over the next 48 hours, she built a replacement credential system, refactored vault access so no single human, not even herself, held the master key again, and added a series of notes throughout the pipeline that began with, "This should never happen again. If it does, you deserve it." By the end of day 3, everything was humming. Quiet, obedient, just the way she liked it. That's when the internal memo leaked, first in the chat, quietly forwarded to her inbox by a friend still on the inside. Subject: New access protocol from board admin to all staff. Going forward, all cloud infrastructure deployment access will be managed and monitored by external consultant Eliza Ray. Please contact IT for credential requests. Do not attempt to modify pipeline architecture without written approval. Thank you. The signature at the bottom had a new name. Greg's was gone. 1 week later, the company announced Greg's resignation, citing personal health considerations. The comment thread beneath the announcement was a minefield of polite reactions and popcorn emojis. Interns whispered about the automated system incident like it was a haunted legend. Eliza didn't reply, didn't repost. She just logged into her professional networking site, clicked Edit Profile, Title, Cloud Deployment Specialist, Consultant. Location, Remote. Status: available. Rate: premium. Bio: I bring systems back from the dead. Don't make me prove it again. Then, and only then, did she allow herself a glass of good wine. Not celebration, closure. She'd been told she was no longer needed, that the machine could hum without her, that automation could replace human care. But the truth was on every server she had just revived, every pipeline she'd repaired, every log now clean and obedient again. They said I was no longer needed. Turns out, I was the lock and the key. This story highlights the immense value of specialized human expertise, even in an increasingly automated world. It's a powerful reminder that while technology can streamline processes, the unique knowledge, experience, and loyalty of individuals are often irreplaceable. The positive message is that true value, while sometimes overlooked or undervalued, ultimately cannot be hidden. When you maintain your integrity and understand your worth, even in the face of unfair treatment, your indispensable contributions will eventually be recognized, leading to a stronger position and a more fulfilling path forward. It encourages individuals to stand firm in their capabilities and reminds organizations that true efficiency lies in valuing their people.